To the founder, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond the four destroyer, the completely perfect, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugada, Lord of the world, supreme guide for human beings within, teachers of God and human beings, to you, the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subdued from the Shakya plane, I prostrate, make offering and go for refuge. Homage to the Supreme Buddha, homage to the Lama refuge, homage to the Great Sangha, to all three ever devout homage, to all worthy of respect, bowing with bodies as many as all realms, atoms, in all aspects, with the supreme faith, I pay homage. Do not commit any non-virtuous action, perform only perfect virtuous action, subdue your mind thoroughly. This is the teaching of the Buddha. A star, a visual aberrations, a flame of a lamp, an illusion, a drop of dew or bubble, a dream, flash of lightning, a cloud, see condition, things as such. Through these merited sentient beings attain the rank of all seeing, subdue the four or faults, and be delivered from samsara's ocean, perturbed by the waves of aging, sickness, and death. I prostrated at Arateva Zen, thus did I hear one time that Bhagavan was dwelling in the mass of Bodha's mountain in Rasgira, together with the great community of monks and great community of Bodhisattvas. At that time, the Bhagavan was observed in the concentration on categories of phenomena performed perception. Also at that time, the Bodhisattva, Mahasattva, Arya Avalokiteshvara look upon the very practice of profound professional wisdom and beheld those five aggregates also as empty of inherent nature. Then through the power of the Buddha, the Venerable Shariputra said this to the Bodhisattva, Mahasattva, Arya Avalokiteshvara. How should any son of the lineage train who wish to practice the activity of profound professional wisdom? He said that, and the Bodhisattva, Mahasattva, Arya Avalokiteshvara said this to the Venerable Shariputra. Shariputra, any son of the lineage or daughter of the lineage who wish to practice the activity of profound professional wisdom should look upon it like this, correctly and repeatedly beholding those five aggregates also as empty of inherent nature. Form is empty, emptiness form, emptiness not other than form is also not other than them. In the same way, feeling, discrimination, composition of factor, and consciousness are empty. Shariputra, likewise, the all phenomena are emptiness without characteristic, unproduced, unsustained, not without stand. No division, not fulfilled. Shariputra, therefore, in emptiness, there is no form, no feeling, no discrimination, no composition of factor, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind. No visual form, no sound, no order, no taste, no object of touch, and no phenomenon. There is no I element, so on, up to and including no mind element and no mental consciousness element. There is no ignorance, no extinction of ignorance, so on and up to and including no aging and death, and no extinction of aging and death. Similarly, there is no suffering, origination, cessation, and path. There is no exalted wisdom, no attainment, also no non-attainment. Shariputra, therefore, because there is no attainment, Bodhisattva rely on and dwell in the perfection of wisdom, the mind without obscuration and without fear. Having completely passed beyond era, they reach the eighth point of nirvana. All the Buddhas who dwell in this time also manifest the completely awakened to the unsurprised of perfect complete enlightenment. In the reliance on perfection of wisdom, therefore, the mantra of perfection of wisdom, the mantra of great knowledge, the unsurprised mantra, the mantra equal to the unequal, the mantra that truly pacifies all suffering, should be known as truth, sin is not false. The mantra of perfection of wisdom is declared, Tayatha Om Kadekate Parakate Parasamkate Bodhi Soha. Shariputra, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva should train in the profound perfection of wisdom like this. Then the Bhagavan arose from the concentration and commanded the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara, saying, well said, son of the lineage. It is like that, it is like that. One should practice the profound perfection of wisdom just as you have indicated. Even the Tathagata rejoice. The Bhagavan having thus spoken, the Venerable Shariputra, Bodhisattva, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara, and those surrounding in the entirety along the worlds of gods, humans, asuras, and Gandharvas were overjoyed and highly praised that spoken by the Bhagavan. So Shiviki Chonshimeto Tamare Ralishi Kempande Sangye Shinto Ide Uwai Dogun Namata Shin Shepajo Idam Guru Rana Mandala Niyataya. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient. Sangye Sherab Soge Sonam La, Chanju Badu Dane, Dagi Juye Be Sonam, Dola Benche Sangye Tuba, Sangye Sherab Soge Sonam La, Chanju Badu, Dagi Juye Be Sonam, Dola Benche Sangye Tuba. So, in the next 4 or 5 sessions, we'll be discussing on this particular practice, the Guru Yoga of Avalokiteshvara or Cheresik, which is composed by His Holiness Dalai Lama himself. So I think since we all have either directly or indirectly some connection with him, in our spiritual practice, and so that I think is a practice can be very helpful and effective, and especially the practice, put together and written by himself for the benefit of the sentient beings, the disciples, the students. I have been asked to give the oral transmissions of this one, which I have received the oral transmission from one of my teachers who received from His Holiness. But I think we will do that when we meet in persons, So at the moment we will go through the practice itself as much as and the practice is, by visualizing and seeing the Guru here, His Holiness Dalai Lama, and Avalokiteshvara, the Cheresik, the Buddha of compassion, as one inseparable. And there are many scriptural predictions and quotations that describe, His Holiness Dalai Lama is actually the manifestation of Avalokiteshvara, the Cheresik himself. So, in reality, whether we visualize or not, but in reality, is a Cheresik, since we cannot see the Avalokiteshvara Cheresik in his that Sambhavakaya form, because we do our karmic obscurations. So then, Avalokiteshvara manifests in a different forms at different time and different places in order to guide and lead and benefit sentient beings. And in our time, one of the manifestations of Avalokiteshvara is His Holiness Dalai Lama, and so the practice is so appropriate, and it will be less challenge to be able to practice and see in that way, And His Holiness Dalai Lama himself, even though even His Holiness Dalai Lama himself has not said explicitly, directly, but indirectly, there are times when he mentions about, being a Avalokiteshvara or Cherisik, directly, what he has said, he is the messenger of the Avalokiteshvara. That he has said he is the messenger of the Cherisik Avalokiteshvara. In public, he has said that quite many times. And also he has said, the Tibetan peoples and many others have a strong karmic connections with the Avalokiteshvara, and prayer the Avalokiteshvara made when Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattvas, in front of the Buddha, and made a commitment to manifest and subdue and train this being in the East barbarian countries. So that is the Tibet, and so His Holiness has mentioned, that because of that, Avalokiteshvara cherishes prayer and dedication, and his intention to be benefit there, and so they have strong karmic connection with that, and so in the same way they have strong karmic connection with me. His Holiness, he also mentioned that. So again, indirectly kind of indicating, it is the same beings, so anyway, so that is the little bit of the practice that we're so inseparability of the spiritual master and Avalokiteshvara, and the source of all powerful attainment. So that is the title, Then, at the very beginning, there is introductions, and in that, if you have the practice, if you have downloaded there is the. So first, His Holiness pay homage before he actually go into the practice, to my spiritual master Avalokiteshvara. So again, I think if everyone has, then maybe we don't have to share. If people doesn't have, then I think it would be nice to share. So hopefully everyone has downloaded. Yeah. So the Moonlight essence of the Buddha's vast compassions. So Avalokiteshvara, is the essence of all the Buddha's vast compassion, manifesting in that form, in that Buddha's form, Sambhogakaya Buddha's form, and then that Sambhogakaya manifests into the human form, such as His Holiness Dalai Lama, as a spiritual teacher. And the red and white nectar of all of their all-inspiring strength, I pay deep respect. I shall now disseminate all the other beings in the standard practice of this profound yoga. So while paying the homage to the spiritual master Avalokiteshvara, so paying homage to Avalokiteshvara as well as the spiritual masters, all the spiritual masters of His Holiness Dalai Lama, and then after paying the respect and homage, then he's saying that he's going to explain the practice of this particular Guru Yoga of Avalokiteshvara or Cherisik. And then, there is in a small letter, the root of every inspiration and powerful attainments lies solely with the spiritual masters. So, is clearly mentioned in many of the sutras, and not only the sutras, as well as in tantric teachings by the Buddhas, and all the commentaries, later commentaries. It is described, how correctly relying on the guru or the spiritual master is the root of all our spiritual realizations. And which is the root of all our spiritual realization, and which is the root of our ultimate happiness or fully enlightenment. And so therefore, the practice of Guru Yoga become very crucial and important in our spiritual practice. Without proper, without a proper and correct practice and reliance on the spiritual master or guru, then it's not impossible. It is not possible to have spiritual realizations, as is described in all the Lamrim and all the other teachings, especially in tantric teaching, in the Mahayana, and particularly especially in tantric teachings. As such, he has been praised, he or she, the guru, has been praised in both sutra and tantras more than once. So both of them, spoken of Buddha himself, and then later, commentary by many other great masters, and the importance of that is being described in those teachings. He is the fundamental important because the basis for achieving everlasting happiness of fully enlightenment, is requesting him to teach undistorted path, So the way to achieve everlasting happiness of fully enlightened state, the way to actualize our spiritual realizations is through correct practice, unmistaken practice. Through correct and unmistaken practice, that's how we should actualize the realization. In order to be able to practice correctly, unmistakenly, to be able to practice, to be able to contemplate and meditate unmistaken, then we have to learn that, we have to learn, study and learn those practices. And who teach us to practice those practices correctly and undistorting or correctly, and is our own spiritual masters. That is from where we receive all the teachings, all the instructions, all the spiritual advices, all the oral transmissions, all the empowerments. So all those different tools of practice we all receive from spiritual masters. If we receive distorted path or teachings and instruction, then we will follow distorted path. And if we follow distorted path, then there's no way we can actualize the spiritual realization and everlasting happiness of enlightenment. And so therefore it becomes very important to receive from a qualified, authentic teachers, unmistaken. And so therefore the spiritual master becomes so important. And thinking of him as being inseparable from the specific meditation deity, so idam or meditational deity, or personal meditational deities, with whom we have strong karmic connections. Idam, with whom you feel a special affinity, you should visualize the two as ones. So, generally, whatever idam or meditational deity we practice, or any practice, whether you are practicing Tara, whether you are practicing Cheresik, whether you are practicing Medicine Buddha, Manjushri, or Kala Chakras, or any of, Yamadaka, Chakra Sambhara, Guya Samaja, whatever you practice, any of those, deity yoga, meditational deity yoga, then we always try to practice by seeing your root guru or your root spiritual master and that deity being inseparable. That's how, we try to. So that is what it means here. Always, whatever practice you do, always trying to do that. Because if you are able to see the deity, the meditation deity, and the spiritual master, the root spiritual master, one and inseparable. In essence, they are one, but in a different form, different aspect. Then you will have a very strong faith and devotions towards the spiritual master, just as you have a strong devotion to the deity, or the other way around. And when you have the more stronger devotion, the more stronger faith you have, the more stronger trust you develop, you receive more. You receive more. We are not, that help you to be more open. And when you are more open, you receive more. All that, whether it's instructions, advice, teachings, you receive more, and it kind of sink into your heart. Instead of hearing from the ear and going from the other ear, you hear from one ear, oh, it's a nice teachings, and then it goes from here, it doesn't go down. But when something, when you have that openness, then the teaching goes from your ear to your heart. And, and then there is some transformation started to happen. You really feel about that. And that, that depends on how open we are, how open our heart and we are. And the more we are able to see it, the more we will be open, and the more we receive it. And so that is the practice, trying to see the yoga inseparable. Okay. So here, even though we can do that here particularly is going to be the practice of the practice of Guru Yoga of Avalokiteshvara, by seeing the spiritual master and Avalokiteshvara inseparable here. Here, and the reason is because the vitality of the Mahayana traditions comes from compassion, love, and altruistic inspiration to attain enlightenment bodhicitta. In order to effectively help all creatures become free from their sufferings. So the very essence the very heart and very essence of the Mahayana teaching and practice is loving kindness, compassion, and bodhicitta mind. That is the very heart and essence of Mahayana teachings. When it comes to the teachings and practice of wisdom, then it is common practice, not only Mahayana, but also other traditions as well. When it comes to practice of moral discipline, when it comes to a practice of meditative concentrations, when it comes to the practice of wisdom, then it is common. It's a common practice of Mahayana and non-Mahayana traditions. So, what is the unique practice of Mahayana? What is the unique practice of the Mahayana? Is the very unique practice of Mahayana or Bodhisattva is, loving kindness, compassion, bodhicitta mind. And the wish to cultivate loving kindness, compassion, bodhicitta mind is not for your individual happiness or your individual purpose or peace, but it is in order to benefit, in order to help all sentient beings, in order to liberate all sentient beings from all their suffering and cause of suffering, and to be able to help them to lead to fully enlightenment, everlasting happiness of fully enlightenment. And so for that purpose, for that very reason, then you try to cultivate the bodhicitta, loving kindness, and compassion. And that is the very heart of, and the very essence of the Mahayana and Bodhisattva's practice and teachings. And since that is the case, here the deity, the Avalokiteshvara meditational deity, is the manifestations of all the Buddhas, enlightened, loving kindness, enlightened, enlightened compassion and bodhicitta mind. All the Buddhas' compassion, energy coming together and manifesting in that particular form of Avalokiteshvara to be benefit to sentient beings. Moreover, the importance of compassion is emphasized throughout all stages of the development. And so, in the Mahayana teachings, scriptures, it has been very much emphasized how compassion is very important at the very beginning, in the middle, at the end, all stages. It is mentioned, such as, of course in sutra and also in commentaries, such as like Chandrakirtis in his middle way, he explained, he paid homage to the great compassion at the very beginning, and he said he paid compassion to the great compassions, homage to the great compassion at the very beginning, because it is very important for the Bodhisattvas and Mahayana at the very beginning, middle, and end. It's very important at the very beginning. It's like a seed. It's like a seed of any plant. It's like a seed because it is very important, because the compassion is the principal cause or root of bodhicitta mind. And bodhicitta mind is the heart and essence of the Bodhisattva Mahayana teachings and practice. So it is very, very important at the very beginning, like a seed. In the middle, it's very important. It's like a water. So it is not enough just to have the seed, but you need to water the seed. so it can grow to the plant and give flower and fruit, everything. So you need to water it. So you can't just have the seed, but you need to continue to keep watering it. Same way, even you have cultivated the bodhicitta mind in order to not to degenerate your bodhicitta mind, not increase the bodhicitta mind. In the middle, you have to continue to practice the great compassion continually. Even after you enter the path, you need to continue. It's like keep on watering. Because if you don't water, the seed will dry. There's possible the seed will dry and not produce the result. The seed will dry and not produce the result. In the same way, so therefore, you need to water it. So it's like a water in the middle, to keep that bodhicitta mind alive, to maintain it, to increase it, to improve it. And in the end, it's very important when you achieve the result, when you achieve the enlightenment, fully enlightenment. So it is like the fruit. At the end, first you put the seed, and then you water it, and the plant grow and produce the fruit, and then you enjoy the fruit. In the same way, at the end, once you achieve enlightenment, because of your great compassion, then, due to that great compassion, then as a result of that, the Buddha benefits sentient beings day and night, effortlessly, tirelessly, day and night, all the time, benefiting, helping, day and night. And that result, such Buddha's activities is a result of the great compassion. It is that great compassion that make them to help and benefit sentient beings all the time. Unlike like the arhat, arhat, even though they are free from all the delusions, but still they can be bliss out in deep meditations and not being benefit to sentient beings directly for even eons sometimes, And so on the other hand, even when Buddha achieves the highest goal of the practitioner, still they continue to help and benefit day and night all the time, and it's because of the great compassion. So great compassion is very important also at the end. And so that is what it means by throughout stages of our development or our spiritual practice. Therefore, if you wish to combine Avalokiteshvara, the meditation of deity, of compassion, with your own root guru, first gather, find offering in a suitable place. So if you want to do a retreat on Avalokiteshvara, or if you want to do a short practice every day, if you can set up one place where you do your practice and meditations, more suitable and quiet places, where you find is suitable for your practice meditations if you have possibility, and then you set up the altar, and if possible, you can have a Avalokiteshvara's and root guru's pictures or statues. If you have the Avalokiteshvara statues, if you don't have a statue, you can have a tanka. If you do not have tanka, you can have a small pictures of Avalokiteshvara, okay, and your root guru. So, and you set up that, and then of course all others, the statue, the stupa, and the text, and then you arrange, offerings, whatever offerings, the water bowls, flowers, incense, light, food, whatever different offering that is suitable, whatever offering that is that you can make, that you can afford, and that, so you can try to arrange all of that. And then, sitting on a comfortable seat in a special virtuous state of mind. So then try to have your meditation cushions, backside slightly, little bit higher, so you can steady your, and then try to sit in the right posture of, if possible, in a 7 or 8 posture, of Virudhana, So you try to sit in that. And then, you try to especially sit in a especially virtuous state of mind, meaning, then try to generate a good motivations to start a practice, bodhicitta motivations. Try to start the virtuous mind of bodhicitta mind. And sometimes it might not be easy to start once you sit to have bodhicitta mind immediately, because your mind might be wandering something might. So it is always good to start with the breathing, You just watch on breathing to quiet your mind. Once you quiet your mind, once your mind is quiet, and then on that, from that basis of that quiet mind, from the foundation of that quiet and peaceful, calm mind, then you try to generate a good intention, motivation, if possible, bodhicitta motivation to start the practice. So once you start there, then we go and take refuge, and so there and generate the enlightened motive of awakening mind, and trying to generate bodhicitta by reciting bodhicitta prayers, trying to generate bodhicitta mind, and then after that meditate on 4 immeasurable thoughts. So that is the instruction given by His Holiness. And I think here the preliminary practices, added refuge and generating bodhicitta and immeasurable thoughts, is not in original His Holiness. In original His Holiness practice, so it is kind of compiled here to make it easy to us. His Holiness just mentioned there, okay, about that. So then now it comes to the preliminary, the refuge. Since this is practice of Buddhist practice, okay, the Guru Yoga of Cheresik or Avalokiteshvara, since it's a Buddhist practice, we start with the refuge. And since it's not only Buddhist practice, but it's a Mahayana practice, then we generate the bodhicitta mind. And, so that is why. So all the practice, we start with the refuge and bodhicitta, all the Mahayana practice, So then here the refuge, in terms of visualizing the refuge field, there are many different ways, extensive and or very short. Okay, I think for the moment, I think maybe I will just go to the short one. You can just visualize Buddha Shakyamuni. Okay, you can just visualize Buddha Shakyamuni, and again, you think Buddha Shakyamuni is inseparable from our root guru. Is our root guru, who is manifesting in that Shakyamuni in that aspect, and then on top of the throne and lotus, sun and moon disk, and you visualize Buddha Shakyamuni as much as you can. And again, one of the things I always so when we do that, you try to see, all the Buddhas, enlightened mind, compassionate, exalted wisdom, all the Buddhas, enlightened mind, manifesting your guru, and your root guru manifesting Buddha Shakyamuni. So in essence, they all are one Guru Buddha, Guru Buddha Shakyamuni, who is instead of your root guru, which encompasses all the Buddhas. So that is one important. In any practice, we try to see that. So again, trying to see the Buddha Shakyamuni is not separate from the other Buddhas, but they all are one in one. You know, Buddha Shakyamuni is one with the Tara, one with the Avalokiteshvara, one with the medicine Buddha, one with all of that in that. So when we are able to do that, the practice becomes more powerful. So that, and then we also see, you know, the Guru Buddha Shakyamuni is the Guru, Buddha, Dharma, all in one. You know, in some they explain, you know, of course it's a Guru in essence, but in the aspect of Guru Shakyamuni, and his body is the Sangha, his speech is the Dharma, his mind is the Buddha. That's one way of seeing Buddha, Dharma, Sangha in all in one. Okay, so while keeping that visualizations, and then you can take some time, you know, more time, little time, you know, trying to remember the qualities of the virtuous qualities, positive qualities of the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha as much as you can, and kindness of the Guru, Buddha, Dharma, Sangha as much as you can, and by cultivating that strong devotions, faith, and respect, then you go to the refuge. So you can recite whether in Sanskrit or Tibetan or in English, anyone that you feel, you know, whether you say Namo Gurube, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dhammaya, Namo Sanghaya, Namo Gurube, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dhammaya, Namo Sanghaya, Namo Gurube, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dhammaya, Namo Sanghaya, 3 times. Or you can recite in English as the translations in there. In the spiritual master, I take refuge. In the awakened ones, I take refuge. In the truth, I take refuge. In the spiritual community, I take refuge. You can do it today. And the way you can do is you can recite that 3 times, or one for visualization. One way is maybe you do 3 times. Namo Gurube, Namo Gurube, Namo Gurube. And so then visualize from the light and nectar from the Guru Buddha Shakyamuni's heart, you know, white light and nectar flow and cleansing and purifying all the sickness, all the negative karma, all the delusion, all the obscuration, especially all the negative karma that we have created in relation to the Guru has been cleansed. And then as you recite the Buddha, same thing, and especially all the negative karma that we have created in relation to the Buddha has been completely cleansed and purified. And as you recite on Namo Dhammaya, then again same, you know, purify light and energy, nectar flow and cleanse and purify all the sickness, negative karma, delusion, obscuration, and especially all the negative karma that were created in relation to Dharma. And the same thing as you recite Namo Sanghaya, Namo Sanghaya, Namo Sanghaya. Again, you from the heart of Guru Buddha Shakyamuni, white light and nectar flow and cleanse and purify all your illness, all the negative karma, all the delusion, all the obscuration, especially all the negative karma that we have created in relation to the Dharma being cleansed. So you do that, you know, after 3 times, and then again you visualize yellow light and nectar flow from the Guru Buddha Shakyamuni and receiving all the blessing of enlightened body, speech, and mind, you know, and blessing of all the enlightened body, speech, mind, all the realizations. So when you have time, you can do those visualization more details. When you don't have time, then you can do short, you know. So again, that. And next is generating bodhicitta mind, you know, as I mentioned, since it's a Mahayana practice. So we start with bodhicitta mind. So in the Supreme One, in the truth and spiritual community, I seek refuge until becoming enlightenment. by the merit of practicing giving other perfection, may I become a fully awakened for the benefit of all. So then again, thinking, due to all the practice, such as my practice of this Guru Yoga, Avalokiteshvara, such as, making the offerings and prostrating and all this practice, due to all this practice and other practices, may I be able to achieve fully enlightenment in order to liberate and in order to benefit all sentient beings. So cultivating bodhicitta mind. And again, if you have time and you have already generated bodhicitta mind motivation before we start the practice itself, so then maybe maybe you don't have to spend so long here, and you can just kind of refresh that bodhicitta mind that you have already cultivated, trying to reconnect and refresh that bodhicitta mind by reciting that prayer, and then trying to refresh that by renewing or refreshing that bodhicitta mind. Then the four immeasurable thoughts. So again, the four immeasurable thoughts is a practice to support the bodhicitta mind that we have already generated from degenerating, from degenerating or decreasing it. Is, as I mentioned before, the compassions, great compassion is like the water in the middle that keeps that bodhicitta mind help from decreasing and to improve more. And so that is how we already generated bodhicitta mind, and in order to help the bodhicitta mind to increase and improve and not degenerate, then for that we do the four immeasurable thoughts. And four immeasurable immeasurable. Okay. May all sentient beings possess happiness and the causes of happiness. So that is immeasurable love, loving kindness. So again, while you recite that, try to feel, may all sentient beings have happiness and cause of happiness. Take few moments to really feel that. If you want to combine a Tonglen practice, then you can visualize sending all your virtues, all your positive energies, and all your wealth and body in the form of happiness and giving them happiness, sending them happiness. You can do that. If you can combine with a Tonglen practice as you recite that. So again, either you recite all of them, or it might be more easier if you do Tonglen to recite one line 3 times. Okay? One line 3 times. So, and then trying to feel it and trying to do the Tonglen practice. Giving. And the next one, may all sentient beings be parted from the suffering and cause of suffering. So that is the immeasurable compassions. Again, while you recite that 3 times, you really try to feel, may they be free from suffering and cause of suffering. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and cause of suffering. And while you do that, if you want to combine the Tonglen practice, then you can visualize taking all the suffering and cause of suffering on yourself as you breathe in and taking on yourself. So, and then next, you recite, may all sentient beings be never separated from the happiness that has no suffering. And that is the immeasurable joy, joyfulness, or immeasurable joyfulness, or joyful. While you recite 3 times, while you recite these 3 times, May all sentient beings will never be separated from happiness, that is free from suffering. Everlasting ultimate happiness. May they have everlasting ultimate happiness. They may never be separated from that. While you recite 3 times, again you try to feel it, and again if you do Tonglen, then you can again imagine, visualize, sending all your all your wealth, all your body, all your virtues, all your positive qualities, energies in the form of the happiness that is free from all the suffering. And then sending that, and the other sentient beings receiving that. And lastly, may all sentient beings abide in equanimity without attachment and aversion to near and far. So that is immeasurable equanimity. The reason why sentient beings suffer is because of not having equanimity due to the discriminations due to discrimination that is due to attachment aversions, having attachment to our dear ones, near ones, friends, families, close ones, and having aversions to those whom we don't like, to whom we don't agree, enemies and so forth. And so therefore, then while you recite that 3 times, again try to feel it. And if you want to do the Tonglen, again, then you take on all sentient beings, discriminating mind of attachment and aversion on yourself as you breathe in, taking all their discriminating mind, attitude, and the attachments and aversion on yourself. And so that is the 4 immeasurable thoughts. Okay. So that is then it comes to the actual practice itself. And in the actual practice, first the purifications, purifying the place, purifying and blessing the place, purifying and blessing all the offerings that we have arranged, or that which mentally we will be imagining and offerings. And for that, so first purifying and blessing the space, the place, environment. May the surface of the earth in every directions be stainless and pure, like a pure land, without roughness or any faults, without any defect and faults, as smooth as palm of child's soft hand, and as naturally polished as the lapis lazuli, the semi precious gem, polished. So basically, imagine and visualizing whole environment, whole space, whole world be transformed into a mandala, like a pure land, without any faults and defect. And then next is that's purifying and blessing the space, and then the environment, the space, and next is purifying and blessing the offerings. May the material offerings of gods and humans, both those set before me and those visualized. So whatever offering we might have arranged in our altar, whatever arranged in directly, or even those we imagine and visualize, all of them, like the cloud of peerless offering of Samanbhadra, So Samanbhadra is one of the bodhisattvas, Samanbhadras. So there is often mentioning of 8 bodhisattvas at the time of Buddha, retinue, listening to the Buddhas, being around Buddha many times. In Mahayana teachings and practice, they often mention of 8 bodhisattvas, and Samantabhadra is one of those bodhisattvas. And Samantabhadra is known for his incredible prayer and offerings, and prayers and offerings. So when you talk about the offering of Samantabhadra, it is mentioned in some, that Samantabhadra hold one jewel, precious jewel, to offer. And that precious one jewel, manifests to reflect out 2 jewels. And from 2, it reflects 4 jewels. From 4, 8. From 8, 16. And then, 32. And then whole space is filled with that offerings. So similarly like that, we imagine each of those offerings manifesting as equal as the space, like the Samantabhadra's offering. So that is what it is. Pervade and encompasses the vastness of space. Yeah. So then whole space will fill with all this. Yeah, if you are doing, filled with drinking water, whole space filled with washing water, whole space filled with all kind of beautiful flowers, with great perfumes, whole space filled with all the incense, whole space filled with all different kind of lights, whole space filled with all different kind of perfumes, whole space filled with all kind of, food, whole space filled with beautiful music and all other kind of offerings that you can imagine, in that offering that you can imagine. So while you visualize all that, and then you recite this blessing and purifying mantra 3 times, Om Namo Bhagavate, Vajrasara Pramantane, Tadagadaya Arhat Samya Sambuddha, Tata Om Vajra Vajra, Ma Vajra, Ma Teza Vajra, Ma Vidya Vajra, Ma Bodhicitta Vajra, Ma Bodhi Mendo Pasam, Pramana, Vajra Sawakama, Avarana, Vishuddhana, Vajra Soha. So you recite 3 times. If you have, doje and bell, you can play while you are doing that. You can play the bell and doje, the bell, that. Okay, so so that is the and then you recite by the force of truth of 3 jewels of refuge, and by from inspiration from all Bodhisattva Buddhas, by the power of the Buddhas who have fully completed the collection of both good merit and insight, by the might of the void, inconceivable and pure, may all of this power, those offerings, be hereby transformed into the actual nature of voidness. So, remember all these different aspects of the offerings. In essence, they all are, the nature is empty. The nature is empty. While they are in essence, in their nature is empty, but they are manifesting in different form, like illusions and dream, like the offering in the dream, offering in the created by some kind of illusions, magicians creating something like that. In nature, they are empty. In their nature, they are empty. In essence, they are empty. But while they are empty, at the same time, empty of inherent existence, at the same time, they are manifesting and performing the functioning of those different offerings, like a offering, like a dream illusions. So then, so that is the. So then it comes to the actual, the main visualizations of this Guru Yoga. Does anyone has any questions so far?
I have a question, Geshe Sherab.
Yeah.
I was just thinking that last paragraph. Sorry, I keep losing it. I was wondering if that section is on purification. So it's a paragraph that goes by the force of the truth of the three jewels of refuge. And the last line says, may all of these offerings be hereby transformed into their actual nature of voidness. So I was wondering if the emptiness is like, it's like the essence, the essential part of purification in a way, because you can't have anything inherent, you can't have inherently existent non-virtue. So I just wondered if that voidness is the bit that is the essential part of the purification. Sorry, I'm not explaining myself very well.
Here, the purification is, even we use the same word purification, where it is not same like when you do the purification to purify all our negative karma and delusion and like that. It is kind of cleansing all the defect, all the faults that might be in the environment, that might be in the offerings, So it is kind of cleansing and purifying. If there's any kind of defect, any kind of faults in that, the environment and the offerings. And so that is kind of, visualizing in that way, visualizing the space without any faults, visualizing all the offering without any faults, without any defect, like our ordinary foods and offerings, which has a lot of fault and defect. Unlike like that, then we try to visualize that, and through the mantra blessing of that, again, we use visualization, we use the mantras, and we use the power of truth, the power of truth of that, the prayer made by all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, through the power of that truth, through the power of the emptiness, and through the power of our own practice, through the power of three jewels, may all offering and be as faultless and defectless as we imagined. So that is dedicating or praying through the power of all those different aspects of that. And at the same time, while we do that, also at the same time, we try to see those offerings in their nature, they're empty, so that we don't have any grasping and clinging to those offerings, And so we try to see, we try to look and see all those offerings in nature, they're empty. And so that is,
Geshe Sherab, could I just ask another question on that?
Mm-hmm.
Aren't they, I forgot what word you used, but aren't they, you said we do this to see that they're empty of faults. Aren't they empty of faults because they are empty of inherent nature? Isn't that why we can see them as pure?
That is what it is. when we think of fall and free from fall, we are talking from conventional level, because in ultimate level, there's no fall to be purified, there's no fall to be clear, there's no defect to be clear. But on conventional level, there is a fault, there is a defect. Because of that, when you use certain food, we get sick. When you use certain, we get sick and all different things, because there is a defect, because that's on conventional level, and also so therefore that has to be purified through that kind of. So trying to change our mind to see them as a pure, faultless, instead of seeing them as ordinary offerings or food with all the faults. So it's a different technique of it's a different techniques of practicing or training or transforming your mind. And so on conventional, there is a fault and there's defect, and there's a defect because of emptiness. There's fault because of emptiness. And it can be free from the fault because of the emptiness. It can be clean from, because, so both fault and free from fault, both of them, because of emptiness, it happens. If things are inherently existing, there can't be fault. By coming together with certain cause and condition, it can't be fault. It can't be defect. So therefore, everything is because of emptiness. You know, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
But the main point here that we try to see and look all these offerings that we are trying to make offerings as an emptiness is because that we don't get grasping to those, that we don't have any clinging and grasping to that. You know, so yeah.
Thank you.
So then it comes to the actual visualizations. So the actual visualizing is in the space of Dharmakaya, great spontaneous bliss. You know, so the space that we are visualizing, because we are going to visualize the Guru Avalokiteshvara in the space. And before we visualize the Guru Avalokiteshvara in the space, we visualize the space. So when you visualize the space, we visualize that space is not just an ordinary space, but actually is a Dharmakaya, is the, this is the great bliss, the great blissful wisdom relies in the emptiness. That Dharmakaya, that ultimate guru, the ultimate guru, Dharmakaya, which is the, blissful wisdom that relies, the ultimate truth, that manifesting that space, the space of that Dharmakaya. So that space is of that Dharmakaya. And in that Dharmakaya space, then what you visualize is in the midst of billowing clouds of magnificent offerings. So all the offering that were visualized, imagined, it's like in that space, whole space will fill with like the clouds. It's like the whole space is, filled with all the clouds. So clouds of offerings, all divine and human, all kind of different offerings that were imagined. In the middle of those offerings, in that space, Dharmakaya space, then abound in sparkling jewel thrones supported by 8 snow lines. Then you visualize a precious throne that is made out of, all precious jewels, all kind of precious jewels, gold, silver, diamond, lapis lazuli, coral, all of that you can visualize, sparkling with these precious jewels, sparkling. That throne is sparkling with the precious jewels. And that is supported by 8 snow lines, 2 snow lines in each direction, each direction of that throne, then, and that symbolizes, one, among 2 of snow line in each 4 direction, one is looking up, one is looking down, while holding the throne. And so that is to kind of, the holding up is to kind of, dispel any kind of obstacles, interference from up, and looking down is to dispel any kind of interference or obstacle from the down, so it's kind of clearing all the obstacles, clearing all the, dispelling all the whatever obstacle there can be, interference that could be, so that is what it symbolizes, the 8 snow line in that way. So, and on top that's, precious throne that's supported by the 8 snow lines. Then on the seat, on top of that, composed of lotus. Then you can visualize lotus seat cushion, lotus cushions, And on top of the lotus cushions, the lotus in bloom, then you visualize, sun cushions, In some, the visual is like mandala set, If you have seen the mandala set, it's like that in a cushion. And sun, and on top of that sun cushion, then there is the moon cushions, the white moon cushions, orange sun cushions. So again, in many of those practices, you always see, 3 cushions, the cushions of lotus and the sun and the moon. Again, it's symbolized. It's symbolized. So all these are, again, inner qualities that manifesting into those different forms. And so the lotus symbolize renunciations, pure renunciations. The sun symbolize wisdom, dispelling the darkness. The moon symbolize the bodhicitta mind, the compassions, they symbolize that. Just as the moon has this energy of cooling down, just as the sun has the heating energies and dispel the darkness, the moon has the cooling energy. In the same way, the bodhicitta has that energy of cooling, calming the mind, cooling and calming the mind. And so it symbolizes those 3 principal aspects of path. So sitting on the 3 cushions of that symbolize and represent the being who sit on that. Here, Guru Avalokiteshvara, it symbolizes that being has actualized those qualities in them. Yeah, sitting on those 3 cushions symbolize that being, whether it is the deity, whether it is the spiritual master, whoever, or whether it is the inseparable spiritual master with the meditation of deity. It symbolizes sitting on a cushion of all of 3. It symbolizes that being has actualized all this inner quality within themselves. So it's not just a decorative arts, okay, to make it nice. It has really deep meanings and deep it represents and symbolizes a very, very important. So okay, that is all. So on top of these three cushions of lotus, sun, and moon, sits supreme exalted Avalokiteshvara. So it's on top of that, and it sits, Avalokiteshvara cherisik, and great treasure of compassions. And that Avalokiteshvara is the treasure of great compassion, is the manifestation of all the Buddha's enlightened compassions. So as I mentioned at the very beginning, all the Buddha's enlightened compassions manifesting in that form. All the enlightened compassions of all the Buddhas can manifest in different forms, but here, particularly in this form of Avalokiteshvara. And there are many different forms of Avalokiteshvara. Okay? There are many forms of Avalokiteshvara. There's 1,000-arm Avalokiteshvara with 11 heads. There is a Avalokiteshvara with 4 arms, with 1 face. That is what is here. And there's Avalokiteshvara with 1 face and 2 hands. And within the Avalokiteshvara with 1 face and 2 hands, there are many different versions. Some of them riding on a snow line, some of them. So there are many different forms of Avalokiteshvara. Okay? But here is the 4-arm Avalokiteshvara. Okay? So again, all these Avalokiteshvara are same being, same enlightened, compassionate Buddha, but they manifest in a different form for the needs of different sentient beings. And some of them manifest in different forms. Some of them, come into the visions of different great masters. When after they have done, when they have achieved certain enlightened realizations, then they have these visions of that Avalokiteshvara coming in different forms. They experience in different forms. Sometimes it's like that. So that is why you have many different forms. It can be manifested. Avalokiteshvara manifests in different form to a different sentient being, different practitioners, and like that. And so that is. And here, in essence, is the Avalokiteshvara, the cherisik, but taking in the form or aspect of His Holiness Dalai Lama. Okay? So that is assuming the form of monk wearing saffron-colored robes. Okay? So that is what. So then, it is Avalokiteshvara, but it is not in Avalokiteshvara form at the moment. It is in the form and aspect of His Holiness Dalai Lama. So the form of monks, His Holiness Dalai Lama, wearing the saffron-colored monks, wearing the 3 monks' robes. Sometimes you hear in a certain, when you visualize Buddha Shakyamuni or His Holiness, 3 robe, there is a red one, and on top of that, there is a, when you have ceremony, then we have, kind of orange one, and when we have special ceremony, then we have a yellow one, those 3, and those 3 robes symbolize and represent 3 inner qualities of moral discipline, meditative concentration, and wisdom. So again, those 3 different saffron robes, symbolize those different inner qualities or practice or moral discipline and meditative concentration and wisdom. So I think maybe today we will kind of stop here and There is one question. Do you dissolve the refuge field here before visualizing matter field? Yes. Yeah, you can dissolve the there are many different way of doing that. There's one way of dissolving to the emptiness. There's one way of dissolving into the light, and light dissolving yourself. And then there is one way that they go into their own Dharmakaya space. So, but most time, you can visualize dissolving the light and the light dissolving in yourself. That can be also okay. So, or you can visualize dissolving emptiness. So yeah, so you dissolve, and once you have dissolved the refuge field, then you visualize this merit field. So this one, the Guru Yoga that we are now visualizing, the main form of the visualization is then the merit field. You visualize merit field, and then you engage in the practice of 7 branches of the practice of purification and accumulation of merit, or 7 limb practices. So, yeah, I guess so. We will kind of, I think we will stop here today. Any other questions? I can text you one questions if you have questions.
Yes, please, teacher. I have a question, please. Teacher, when you were talking about when we recite the mantra and we need a bell. What is the meaning of the bell? And
normally we have dorje and bell. The vajra and the bell, and it symbolizes, the vajra symbolizes the method, and the bell symbolizes the wisdom. And then when we play it, it is making offerings of music. Okay. Yeah. So.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, and we do the dedications. Gyawadi nyodo da lama sangye do gyone do chi nyama lupa e sala pe barasho chancho sencho rembo che ma ke pa na ke kyochi kewa nyamba me vaya Onle kondo kewash. Shiden kamde depende malu ba kanle chungwe sambe yeshen kadin chungme denzen jaso la sowa deso tuje lundo sho. Tuzu jangshin jangwen yawe ten zinjong bewe kunso to boroze. Choson ku ele mo tu tu a da so du je gwen du sha pen sho. La ba nu cho sa de do wa la ya wa gwen le la be tin jen che. La liang sam xin cho de ri du su che la ka den ten be ke sha so. Thank you very much, everyone. Good night. Thank you. Take care.
Thank you, Geshe.